Potato chips. In the summer of 1853, at Moon's Lake House Resort in Saratoga Springs, New York, a chef named George Crumb was working in the kitchen. Crumb was a skilled cook of African American and Native American descent. He specialized in preparing meals for wealthy guests who visited the popular lakeside resort. One evening, a customer, legend says it may have been a wealthy man like Cornelius Vanderbilt, ordered French fried potatoes. When the plate came back, the diner complained they were too thick, too soggy, and not crispy enough. He sent them back to the kitchen. Annoyed by the criticism, Crumb decided to teach the customer a lesson. He took a potato and sliced it as thinly as possible with his knife, almost paper thin. Then he fried the slices in hot oil until they were golden and brittle. Finally, he sprinkled them generously with salt, far more than usual, expecting the overly crispy and salty chips to be impossible to eat. To Crumb's surprise, the customer loved them. He finished the entire plate and even asked for more. Word spread quickly among the other diners. Soon, guests were specifically requesting Saratoga chips, named after the location. The thin, crunchy fried potatoes became a signature specialty at the resort and a delicacy among the rich. Crumb later opened his own restaurant called Crumb's in Malta, New York, where he continued serving the chips in baskets on every table. They remained popular for decades. While earlier recipes for thin fried potatoes existed, Crumb's version popularized the snack in America. Mass production came much later in the early 20th century, with companies like Laura Scudder's introducing sealed bags in the 1920s. Today, potato chips are a global billion-dollar industry, all thanks to one chef's frustrated moment in a 19th century kitchen. Chocolate chip cookies. In the 1930s, Ruth Graves Wakefield was the owner and chef of the Toll House Inn in Whitman, Massachusetts. The inn, a popular spot for travelers, was famous for its home-cooked meals and desserts. Ruth was an excellent cook who often created her own recipes. One day, while preparing a batch of her popular butter drop-dew cookies, Ruth ran out of baker's chocolate. She needed to add chocolate flavor to the dough. Instead of waiting for more ingredients, she decided to improvise. She took a semi-sweet Nestlé chocolate bar, broke it into small pieces, and mixed the chunks into the cookie dough. Ruth expected the chocolate to melt completely during baking, creating chocolate-flavored cookies like she usually made. But something unexpected happened. The chocolate pieces softened but held their shape, creating little pockets of melted chocolate inside the cookies. When the cookies came out of the oven, they had gooey chocolate chips throughout. Customers at the Toll House Inn loved the new cookies immediately. They quickly became the inn's most popular dessert. People would drive from far away just to try Ruth's Toll House chocolate crunch cookies, as she originally called them. The success was so big that Nestlé noticed. In 1939, the company made a deal with Ruth. She gave them permission to print her recipe on the back of their semi-sweet chocolate bar packages. In return, Nestlé provided her with free chocolate. This was a smart move. Sales of the chocolate bars skyrocketed as home bakers tried the recipe. Popsicles. In the summer of 1905, an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson from Oakland, California, made a simple mistake that would eventually change snack time forever. Frank loved mixing powdered soda flavors with water to create sweet drinks. One evening, he prepared a batch of his favorite soda mix, some say it was strawberry, stirred it with a small wooden stick, and left the cup outside on the back porch. He completely forgot about it and went to bed. That night, the temperature dropped below freezing. When Frank went outside the next morning, he discovered the cup was frozen solid. Curious, he pulled on the wooden stick. Out came a frozen block of flavored ice on a stick. He tasted it. It was delicious, cold, sweet, and easy to eat. Frank called his creation an epsicle, a combination of his last name and icicle. His friends and family loved the frozen treats, and he started making them more often. For years, he sold epsicles at local parks and fairs as a fun summer refreshment. In 1923, at age 29, Frank Epperson decided to patent his invention. He officially filed for the patent on the frozen confectionery in 1924. By then, he had improved the recipe and production process. He renamed it Popsicle because people kept calling them Pop for the way they popped out of the mold and cycle from icicle. The Popsicle company grew quickly. In the late 1920s, Epperson sold the rights to the Popsicle Corporation. They expanded flavors and made the treats widely available across the United States. Children especially loved them because they were affordable, portable, and mess-free compared to regular ice cream. Corn flakes. In the late 1800s, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg ran the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan. A strict vegetarian and health reformer, he promoted a bland diet to improve digestion and overall wellness for his patients. He worked closely with his younger brother, Will Keith Kellogg, who helped manage operations. One night in 1894, while experimenting with wheat-based foods for easy digestion, they prepared a batch of cooked wheat berries. Dr. Kellogg was called away for an emergency and left the pot unattended. The wheat sat overnight and fermented slightly. The next morning, instead of discarding it, they rolled the softened wheat through rollers used for making dough. To their surprise, it did not form bread loaves. Instead, it flaked into thin, delicate pieces. When baked, these turned into light, crispy, golden flakes. Patients at the sanitarium loved the new food, which they first called granos. Will continued experimenting. He found that corn worked even better than wheat, producing crunchier and tastier flakes. By 1898, they had refined a recipe for what became cornflakes. A patent for flake cereals was granted in 1896 to John Harvey Kellogg. The brothers initially produced the cereal for sanitarium patients and sold it through their Sanitas Food Company. Patients enjoyed the convenient, ready-to-eat breakfast that needed only milk. Demand grew. Tensions rose between the brothers. Dr. John focused on health and kept flavors plain. Will saw commercial potential and wanted to add sugar and salt for broader appeal. After disagreements and legal battles over the Kellogg name, Will bought the rights in 1906 and founded the Battle Creek Toasted Corn Flake Company. The Sandwich. The Sandwich is named after John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, 1718 to 1792, a British statesman, diplomat, and gambler. He served as First Lord of the Admiralty, Postmaster General, and Secretary of State. He sponsored Captain James Cook's voyages, which named the Sandwich Islands, now Hawaii, after him. The popular story of the sandwich invention dates to 1762. Lord Sandwich was an avid gambler who spent long hours at the card table. He did not want to stop playing to eat a proper meal. He asked his servants to bring him slices of cold roast beef placed between 2 slices of bread. This allowed him to eat with one hand while continuing to play cards with the other, without getting grease on his hands or cards. His friends and fellow gamblers noticed the convenient meal and began ordering the same as sandwich. The name stuck. Over time, the term sandwich referred to any food consisting of fillings between 2 slices of bread. Some historians suggest the story may be exaggerated. Biographer N.A.M. Roger proposed that Sandwich likely ate this way at his work desk due to his busy schedule with Navy and political duties, rather than purely from gambling. The travel writer Pierre-Jean Grosley helped popularize the gambling tale in his 1772 book Tour to London. Before this, people had eaten bread with fillings for centuries in various cultures, but the Earl's habit gave the specific English-style preparation its name in the Western world. By the 19th century, sandwiches became a common convenient food across Britain and beyond. Nachos. In 1943, in the border town of Piedras Negras, Coahuila, Mexico, just across from Eagle Pass, Texas, Ignacio Nacho Anaya worked as a maître d' at the Victory Club restaurant. One evening, a group of American women, often described as wives of U.S. military officers from nearby Fort Duncan, crossed the border for dinner after shopping. The main cook had already left for the day, and the kitchen was short-staffed. Rather than turn the hungry customers away, Anaya took matters into his own hands. He went into the kitchen, spotted some fresh corn tortillas, cut them into triangles, and quickly fried them until crisp. He then topped the chips with shredded Colby cheese, or cheddar in some accounts, and sliced pickled jalapeno peppers. He heated the dish just enough for the cheese to melt, creating a simple, hot, and spicy snack. When he served it, the women loved the new creation. One of them asked what it was called. Anaya, whose nickname was Nacho, short for Ignacio, replied modestly, "Well, I guess we can just call them Nacho Special." The dish quickly became popular. Anaya later opened his own restaurant, Nacho's Restaurant, in Piedras Negras. The original recipe appeared in a 1954 church cookbook from Eagle Pass. From this humble, improvised border snack, nachos evolved into the loaded Tex-Mex favorite we know today, with meats, beans, guacamole, sour cream, and more. What started as a last-minute solution became a global party staple, all thanks to one quick-thinking man and a few pantry staples. Tarte tatin. In the late 1880s, in the small town of La Motte-Bouvrin, France, about 100 miles south of Paris, 2 sisters named Stephanie and Caroline Tatin ran the Hotel Tatin. The hotel was popular with hunters and travelers. Stephanie handled most of the cooking, while Caroline managed the front of the house. One busy day, according to the popular legend, Stephanie was making an apple tart for the guests. She had peeled and sliced the apples and placed them in a pan with butter and sugar to caramelize on the stove. Distracted by the rush, she left the apples cooking too long. When she smelled the burning sugar, it was too late to start over. In a panic to save the dish, Stephanie quickly placed the pie pastry on top of the caramelized apples in the pan and put the whole thing into the oven to finish baking. When the tart was done, she flipped it out onto a plate. Instead of a ruined dessert, she had created something beautiful: tender, caramelized apples on top of a crisp, buttery crust. The guests loved the unusual upside-down tart. The caramelized apples were sweet and deeply flavored, and the pastry had soaked up the delicious juices. Word spread about this special apple tart from the Tatin sisters. It soon became the hotel's signature dessert. The sisters never published a cookbook or formally named it Tarte Tatin. After they retired and passed away, Stephanie in 1911, Caroline in 1917, the fame grew. Famous food writer Kanonsky and the Parisian restaurant Maxim's helped popularize it, calling it tarte tatin in honor of the sisters. Today, tarte tatin is a classic French dessert made with apples, or other fruits like pears, butter, sugar, and puff pastry. It is baked upside down and inverted before serving. While the exact accident story may have some myth, the Tatin sisters' version became the beloved standard. Ice cream cone. The invention of the ice cream cone is one of the most beloved food origin tales, though the exact truth involves multiple people and a bit of legend. The most famous story comes from the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, Louisiana Purchase Exposition. Ernest A. Hamwi, a Syrian immigrant, was selling zalabia, a thin, crisp waffle-like pastry, at his booth. Next to him, an ice cream vendor was doing great business but suddenly ran out of serving dishes or cups. In a moment of quick thinking, Hamwi rolled one of his warm waffles into a cone shape, like a cornucopia, and handed it over. The ice cream was scooped inside, and customers loved the edible, convenient holder. Sales soared, and the idea spread rapidly across the fairgrounds. Hamwi later confirmed in a 1928 interview that concessionaires approached him for the waffles. He went on to found the Missouri Cone Company in 1910 and helped popularize cone production. However, the full history starts earlier. Italo Marchioni, an Italian immigrant in New York, had been making and selling ice cream cones, or cup-like versions, as early as 1896. He received a U.S. patent in December 1903 for a mold to produce them. His cones helped pushcart vendors serve ice cream more efficiently. Other immigrants, including Lebanese and Turkish vendors at the fair, may have contributed similar ideas. The 1904 fair was a massive event with dozens of food booths, so the cone likely popped up in several places independently. What made it explode in popularity was the combination of hot weather, crowds, and the novelty of eating ice cream without a dish. Worcestershire sauce. In the early 1830s, two Worcester chemists and pharmacists, John Wheeler Lee and William Henry Perrins, ran a successful shop at 68 Broad Street. According to company law, a nobleman, often claimed to be Lord Sandys, a former governor of Bengal, returned from India and asked them to recreate a special fermented fish sauce he had enjoyed there. Lee and Perrins mixed ingredients including vinegar, anchovies, garlic, onions, tamarind, molasses, sugar, salt, spices, and more, following the nobleman's vague recipe. The initial mixture was extremely pungent, overpowering, and practically inedible. Disappointed, they stored the barrel in the cellar and forgot about it. About 18 months later, while clearing space in the basement, they rediscovered the barrel. Curious, they tasted the sauce and were amazed. The long fermentation had mellowed the flavors beautifully, creating a rich, savory, tangy condiment with deep umami. They refined the recipe, bottled it, and in 1837 began selling Lee and Perrins' Worcestershire sauce. It quickly became popular in England and was exported worldwide. By 1838, it was commercially available, and the brand remains the original and most famous today. The exact recipe is still a closely guarded secret, known only to a few people. The sauce's success turned Lee and Perrins into a global icon, used in everything from Bloody Marys and Caesar salads to steaks and stews. What started as a failed experiment became one of the world's most beloved condiments through pure happy accident. Beer. Thousands of years ago, in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, around 6000 to 4000 BC, early humans were experimenting with grains. They discovered that barley and other grains could be turned into bread. One day, someone, likely a woman preparing food, made a porridge or mash from sprouted grains. She left it out too long, perhaps forgotten during daily chores or due to rain. Wild yeast from the air and bacteria in the environment got into the wet mixture. Instead of spoiling completely, the mash began to ferment. Bubbles formed, and a slightly alcoholic, tangy liquid emerged. Someone tasted it. It was different, nourishing, mildly intoxicating, and safer than plain water in those days because the alcohol killed some harmful germs. This happy accident became the first beer. It wasn't clear and fizzy like today. It was thick, like a gruel, full of grain bits. People used straws to drink it and avoid the solids. The Sumerians loved it so much they wrote poems about it. A 3,900-year-old hymn to the goddess Ninkosa even contains an ancient beer recipe using barley bread called bapir. Beer quickly became central to daily life. It provided calories, nutrition, and safe hydration. Brewing was mostly done by women and highly respected. From Sumeria, the knowledge spread to Egypt and beyond. What started as a kitchen mistake changed human culture forever, leading to festivals, trade, and one of the world's oldest beverages. Modern beer evolved over millennia with better techniques, but its roots remain in that forgotten bowl of fermenting grain. Raisins. Long before modern snacks or packaged foods, raisins were born purely by accident around 2000 BC in ancient Persia and Egypt. Grapes had been cultivated for thousands of years, but one day, clusters left too long on the vine in the intense summer heat began to shrivel. The scorching sun and dry air naturally dehydrated the fruit, turning juicy grapes into wrinkled, sweet morsels. At first, people likely viewed them with suspicion. Some thought the dried grapes were spoiled or ruined, but curious individuals tasted them anyway. To their surprise, the raisins were intensely sweet, portable, and long-lasting. Unlike fresh grapes that spoiled quickly, these dried versions could be stored for months without rotting. Ancient Egyptians and Persians embraced them not just as food but as valuable trade goods, medicine, and even currency. Raisins appeared in Egyptian writings and the Bible. Phoenician traders carried them across the Mediterranean, introducing them to Greece and Rome. Greeks and Romans used raisins in cooking, as prizes in athletic games, and as offerings in temples. By the Middle Ages, raisins were a luxury item in Europe. Spanish and Portuguese vineyards produced them on a larger scale. When Europeans colonized the New World, raisins traveled with explorers like Christopher Columbus as durable ship provisions. In 1873, California experienced its own accidental raisin boom when a heat wave dried grapes on the vine before harvest. Farmers realized the potential, and the Golden State became a major producer. Today, raisins remain one of the simplest, most ancient inventions. A happy accident of sun, time, and forgotten grapes on the vine. Yogurt. Thousands of years ago, around 5000 BCE in Central Asia and Mesopotamia, nomadic herders roamed with their goats and sheep. Fresh milk was precious but spoiled quickly in the heat. To carry it safely, they used bags made from animal stomachs or skins, natural containers that still held traces of enzymes and bacteria from the animals. One warm day, a herder poured fresh milk into such a pouch and slung it over his shoulder or tied it to his horse. As he traveled under the blazing sun, the milk sloshed gently. Body heat from the carrier, combined with residual bacteria and enzymes in the animal skin lining, created perfect conditions for fermentation. Lactic acid bacteria, like lactobacillus, multiplied, turning the milk sour, thick, and tangy. When the herder opened the pouch later, instead of spoiled milk, he found a creamy, preserved curd with a pleasant acidic taste. It didn't go bad as fast and was easier to digest. Word spread among tribes. They began deliberately using old pouches to culture new batches, refining the process over generations. This happy accident gave the world yogurt, one of humanity's oldest fermented foods. Ancient texts mention it, and it spread across the Middle East, Turkey, Balkans, and beyond. Today, we know the science, but it all started with a simple traveler's milk bag and nature's clever chemistry. Pink lemonade. In the gritty, sawdust-filled world of 19th-century American circuses, where the show must go on no matter what, pink lemonade was born from desperation and a splash of genius, or filth. The most infamous tale stars Pete Conklin in 1857. Pete, a sharp-witted circus vendor and brother to lion tamer George Conklin, was slinging regular lemonade when he ran bone dry on water mid-rush. With thirsty crowds roaring for refreshment, He spotted a tub of water an acrobat had just used to rinse her bright pink tights. In a move that would make modern health inspectors faint, he dumped it into his lemonade vat. The result? A suspiciously rosy hue. Undeterred, Pete rebranded it as strawberry lemonade. Sales doubled overnight. No self-respecting circus went without it again. A rival origin credits Henry Bunk a lot, a Chicago runaway who joined the circus as a teen. Around the late 1800s, a lot allegedly knocked red cinnamon candies into a giant batch of lemonade. The dye turned it pink, and rather than waste it, he sold the new flavor. Customers went wild for the novelty. Both stories scream circus hustle, improvise, upsell, and never admit the accident. Pink lemonade wasn't just a drink, it became a spectacle staple, proving that sometimes the best inventions come from spilled candy or sweaty tights. Today it's a nostalgic classic, minus the laundry water, hopefully. Who knew one happy accident could color summer forever? Dippin dots. In the late 1980s, microbiologist Kurt Jones was deep in cryogenics research in rural Kentucky. His mission? Revolutioniser la feed. Traditional methods lost nutrients. Jones wanted better preservation. He experimented with flash freezing at a bone-chilling minus 350 degrees Fahrenheit minus 212 degrees Celsius using liquid nitrogen. The result? Tiny, efficient beads of feed that retained more nutrition. One day, as a self-proclaimed ice cream lover, Jones had a playful what-if moment. He dripped his homemade ice cream mix into the same cryogenic setup. Each droplet flash froze instantly into perfect, colorful little spheres, not a solid block, but individual beads that stayed fresher longer and melted smoothly on the tongue. Born in his parents' garage in 1988 in Paducah, Kentucky, Dippin Dots was initially a novelty. Jones founded the company there, marketing the beads as futuristic ice cream of the future. They exploded in popularity at theme parks, stadiums, malls, and fairs in the 1990s. The unique process, dripping liquid mix into liquid nitrogen, creates the signature texture, a satisfying pop followed by creamy melt. Though not strictly accidental like potato chips, the shift from livestock feed to dessert was a brilliant, serendipitous pivot. Today, Dippin Dots remains a beloved frozen treat, with the company still innovating flavors while honoring its cryogenic roots. Nashville hot chicken. In the 1930s, Thornton Prince III, a notorious Nashville ladies' man, stumbled home one night after a long evening of entertaining. His girlfriend, fed up with his philandering, decided revenge was best served scorching. She coated his fried chicken with an unholy amount of cayenne, lard, and secret spices, hoping to set his mouth and ego on fire. Instead of gasping in defeat, Thornton took one fiery bite and grinned. "This is the best chicken I've ever had." The heat didn't punish him, it inspired him. Word spread like wildfire through Nashville's black community. Friends begged for the hot chicken, and soon Prince was selling it from a backyard stand. By the 1940s, he'd opened Prince's Hot Chicken Shack. The dish became a cultural staple, crispy, juicy chicken drenched in a cayenne-laced paste that leaves lips tingling and forehead sweating. It's not just food, it's a rite of passage. Today, Nashville hot chicken is world famous. Chains like Hattie BS and even KFC serve versions, but locals know the real deal. What began as a scorned lover's spicy revenge became Tennessee's hottest culinary export, proof that the best dishes are born from passion, betrayal, and pure heat. Thornton turned heartbreak into a legend that still burns bright.